On the previous class, we were working with shadow and lighting, and this is a very important part that I want you all to really make the effort to understand this, because as I was telling you, that's um, like half of the illustration. If you get that solved, then your illustration is gonna look very good. Sometimes we focus a lot on the details, and then if we left the lighting and the shading on the side, then the result can be not what we were expecting. It's just that it's a process that is gonna go slowly, and I do want to make sure that you understand this. We're doing this course in 3 months. This is only the second week of the first month, where we are just getting used to working with our pencils, getting used to working with our gradients, with the transitions that we can get with the graphite. And then we're gonna have a month working ink, and then we're gonna have a month working watercolor. You might wonder why these these um, parts of the class are so long, and it's because we really have to take the time to do this. I received some questions regarding how to use the pencil and how to make it look like a smooth transition. And I'm gonna be telling you how I do it. We're gonna be seeing 3 different ways of working with our pencils that maybe we've talked about them a little bit, but today we're gonna talk about them more in detail. This is how I work with my pencils, and I'm gonna show you. Alright, this is my paper. So we talked already about the number and the hardness and the softness of our pencils. I'm working here with an HB, and I'm gonna do this example with this one. Yeah, let me just focus that. Alright, perfect. Mm, I'm gonna show you one of the homeworks that you sent me, and this was one of them. First, I just wanna say that it was a really good exercise. It was a really good exercise, and I understand that if you're gonna compare it with something that is perfect, then maybe you're gonna be too hard on you. We have to understand that this is a process, and then we can have some areas where we can always improve. This person here that sent me this homework told me several things. So one of them was their complication with the transition from the darkest parts to the lightest parts. And you can see that a little bit on the cast shadow. That we see that that transition maybe is not as smooth, but I think it's pretty good still. Like the understanding of it is really good. And I'm just gonna show you how I do this Let me just change this real quick. Okay. When I'm doing transitions, I do it in 3 different ways. I think the one that I have shown you the most is when I do it kind of rough. So yeah, if I'm gonna have my paper here and I do my strokes like this. This is just me pressing the pencil against the paper, up and down, up and down. What are we gonna have with this? This up and down is making this pattern on the paper. Of course, it's closer together to the point that we cannot really see it, but it's gonna impact the way that we see the final result. It's like when we were working on the sphere and I was telling you that if you do strokes like this, then we're gonna see it. So if we do these ones like this, we are definitely gonna see them. I recommend using this when you're doing a sketch, when you want to be fast, and when you're not really thinking about the final result. You're not really aiming for super refined result. It works. No, I think it's really good, and it is also very efficient. We have a different one that is just going around in circles. So the circles one takes a little bit more time, but also is gonna give us a result that is a bit more refined. So then this one would be just as soft as we can pressure the pencil. We go over the paper in circles. This is gonna give us way more control. And we can practice this first with a steady pressure. So we're just looking to have the same tone. Then we can try to go softer. And look how easy this comes when we are using this technique. And then we can go harder. And in this you can already see the difference between how refined this is versus the one that we have on top. And then I have a third one that I usually only use when I'm doing a final illustration that is gonna be on paper, on pencil, excuse me. And that one would be going with the shape of the object and going only in straight lines. And I know this can sound like a little bit confusing because, yeah, if I'm working with a sphere, how can I do straight lines and working with the shape? But what I would do is like, yeah, let's see, for example, I have a shape like this. Then I'm gonna do lines, short lines, like this. So these are my straight lines, and then I'm gonna go with a curve. And as you can see, this one also gives us a more refined result. You can always decide which one of these goes better with you. But it also depends a lot on the result that you're looking for. In these exercises that we've been doing last couple of classes, well, this one's perfect. This one is just fine because it's gonna allow us to do things fast and also to work with our gradients, work with our tones, and understand the volume and the shapes that we have. Mm, so yeah, that one's great. These two we can use when we are doing our final illustration, when we really want this defined aspect of the final illustration. Maybe this one and this one look a little bit similar, but what I was telling you here, in here is just like this. So we are avoiding this up and down, up and down, up and down, because that's gonna make us have less control over what we are drawing. And then we just have to take the time to be able to do this. Another advice that I would have here when we are working with our pencils is that sometimes our pencils are not as smooth as we want them to be. So we can just go ahead and just with the same paper we kind of sand them against the paper and sorry, we just turn the pencil and make it smooth on all our edges. How is how is that going to help us? Well, it helps us in the way that sometimes our pencil has this texture, the graphite has a rough texture. And if we don't take care of this, then we can have some lines or some traces that we did not plan to place there. And what we want to have here is control. We want that everything that we are drawing is completely controlled. When you have a new pencil, you're going to have even some lines on the graphite. And that's why you go ahead and sharpen it. But okay, I'm going to sharpen my pencil and we're going to see how it looks like recently sharpened. I'm also using a Faber-Castell sharpener. This is one of my favorites because it allows you to do different sizes of the pencils, and you also have a color container, and it's just very sharp. It works perfectly. So look at my pencil. Reason I just sharpened this one. And what I can see maybe in the camera is not that obvious is that it kind of broke, the point of the pencil broke, and then it's gonna give us, if I go right ahead and draw with this, look, I did two lines, and one is kind of double, the other one is very sharp at the point that we might break the paper. So then if I go ahead and smooth all those pointy edges of the pencil, then we're gonna have way more control over what the pencil is drawing. And that's exactly what we want. Maybe here on camera is not super clear, but I know it's gonna come clearer to you when you're gonna be working on this, when you're gonna be seeing, looking at your pencil, you know what I'm talking about. So then I have smooth pencil. Okay, the point still kinda a little knife. We don't want that. That texture that's just gonna be very sharp is not gonna be good for us, because good thing about pencil when we work on pencil is that we can erase it, no? But if we all of a sudden have one of those, maybe it's gonna be harder to erase it. So let me show you. I'm gonna show you how easily I can erase. Let's say I made a mistake here and I wanna correct that. Then it'll be as easy as erasing. And it's almost like I don't see anything, not a trace that there was any graphite there before. But if I go ahead and try to erase one of these that were made with an recently sharp pencil that was very, very sharp and very harmful to the page, then if I go and erase it, I have underneath, I have all the trace that there was graphite there. I can see, look, I cannot even erase it properly. Okay, this is me trying harder, and I think at this point I'm damaging the paper. And do you see that? Look our result here, and look our result here. So that's why we want to do our refined work when we are working on our final illustration. What can I tell you when you have, like, where to go from here, from this example that they send us? So let me show you. From here you can always keep working on it and just build it up from there. And what I mean mainly is that sometimes we don't like how the different steps of our process look like. And I know that you hear this a lot, and in any type of subject, any kind of area, when you're working to be better or you're working to learn a new skill, they tell you, learn to love the process. And what they mean is that it's not always gonna look perfect, it's not always gonna look how you think or how your expectations were telling you that it was gonna look. But that doesn't mean that it's not gonna look like that. So the person that sent me this homework told me I'm having issues with the transition of of my shading, and I'm having issues to make it a solid color. And what I see here is that you could have keep working on it. If you go a little bit back, okay, I'm gonna do a fast example of what we have here. And this is just me just guessing the technique that they use. I think they use the one that we've been using the most, that is kind of fast. Up and down, giving us the texture. And I understand because I see that they have strokes that are darker than the others. Okay, I also don't think it's a lot, and as I was telling you in the beginning, I do think that this was a really good exercise. It's just that we can keep working on it. So one of the first things I would also say to this person that was doing this exercise is don't be afraid to go dark. Because if you see, well, we mentioned on previous class that the part on top was the light one. This one was the light one. On the drawing that we have on the right, our mid-tone and our light side is almost the same tone. So we're going from here, just don't be afraid to go dark. And we can use, in this case, our circle technique to be able to make all that into the same tone. Is it gonna take us more time? Yeah. Is it gonna look better at the end? Yeah, for sure. Drawing is a whole thing of patience and also of practice. I remember one of my illustration teachers telling me that drawing was just like practicing a sport. And then you realize it is. If you're gonna be playing a game on Sunday and then you don't go to your practice on the whole week, then when you go out the field on Sunday, you're not gonna be very good. You didn't go to practice, you didn't try different plays with your teammates. So yeah, if I don't practice every day my drawing skills and then I'm just expecting to sit down and do everything perfectly, well, that's not very realistic. So this is just me encouraging you to draw as much as you can. Get familiar with the media that you're using. Maybe your preferred media is not pencil but is fine liners and you love to do ink drawings. And just get familiar with that and learn how to make the textures that you want to make and learn how to do the gradients that you want to make. So you can see how we have way more control over this one when we just go in circles in comparison to the fast sketching technique. And you see how it's easier to get to a result. Now, I also see here that I'm having some texture still on my drawing, even though I work on solving all the issues that were preventing me to have a perfect, smooth surface. And to be honest with you, this is just the paper that I'm working on. We talk a little bit about papers and about working on thin papers and how that sometimes can get you the texture of the place you're drawing, or even the texture, just the texture of the paper. Maybe if the paper is not that smooth, then it's gonna give us a texture. I'm working with just a printing paper. So again, this is a 90-gram paper. And maybe that's why we're having this extra texture on the drawing. It's not super bad, but I can also later show you the difference. I hope that you're doing your animal sketch on thicker paper. If you can do 180 grams, that would be amazing. That's just double of this. Mm. And the paper that I go to is an, let me see, this is the term. Yeah, the paper that I use is opal paper. And this is just a little bit thicker and a little bit smoother. But see how this paper, even when it's not the best of the papers we can be using, it's already showing us a great difference. And just also be aware of the texture of your pencil, how I was mentioning before. This is not only gonna happen when you sharpen your pencil, but when we work a lot of time on the same side of the point of the pencil, then we're gonna have an edge. So we might want to change to another part of the point, apply pressure on another part of the point of the pencil. Well, that was complicated. I just mean rotate your pencil. That's it. Then it's gonna wear off only on one side, and we want it to be wearing off evenly. And another super important factor here is the brand of your pencils. There are, yeah, pencils have numbers, no? And then they tell you this is a 2H, so this is supposed to be hard, a hard pencil, and this is supposed to be a light trace. but every brand of pencils is different. So maybe you can have a 2H on a certain brand that is as dark as HB on another brand. So if sometimes you're using your pencils and you don't really see a difference between your 2H and your HB, maybe you wanna look for a different brand that is gonna give you a lighter result. I'm kinda having that right now, and I will tell you why. But it's just that I got these Faber-Castell pencils, and sometimes I feel that my 2H is not as light as it should be, and that is gonna prevent us from achieving transitions that we wanna achieve. And the last factor that is gonna be impacting the results, it's gonna be the pressure that you put on the pencil and how delicate you are. But it's mainly those three. So have the texture of the pencil. We have the brand of the pencil, and we have the pressure we apply. And of course the first one that we saw, that was the technique. So yeah, if you can control all this, then you're gonna have a result that is more under control. And I'm not saying that this is easy. This requires a lot of practice. But once you start getting a hold of it, then it's gonna make so much sense. Sometimes you can get excited with this technique and then just forget that you're doing circles. So just try to remind yourself that you're doing the circles and always go back. If you start doing traces like first one that we were doing, just think of coming back to it. It's also a great mindful exercise. Then when we think we're almost there, we can step back and see like, okay, what am I missing? Maybe I started darker and then it went a little bit lighter, so maybe I want to apply more graphite on this part. I can go ahead and do that. There is also one thing here with the learning curve and with the appreciation curve. And what happens is that you're gonna learn what you find appealing, what you find beautiful, what you find that a good technique is. So first you're gonna learn to observe something and say, that's a good work. And when you're learning to actually do it, it's gonna take longer. So a lot of people have this, that they can be very critic on themselves because they can recognize that maybe it could look more beautiful, but in your learning skill you're not there yet. So you say, maybe you talk bad about your exercises, about your drawings, and I encourage you to not do that and just keep working. Understanding Understand that maybe you haven't learned that yet, but you're gonna. You have to keep practicing. You have to love the process. And there is gonna be a point where you can say like, "Oh, that looks good, and I did that." And that's where we wanna get. So don't bring yourself down if you feel that the results that you're achieving are not as good. If you sat down today and start drawing and start doing your exercise, that's good enough. That's all we need. All we need is practice. And then you see that we have a more solid base here. So yeah, as I mentioned, paper interferes a lot on this process. So for next example, I'm gonna be using the opal paper I was telling you about, the one that is 180 grams, and the one I'm working today is 9 grams, 90 grams. So you can see the difference on that. I'm gonna show you the next activity that this person sent me, and is this sphere. Again, I think this was a really good exercise, and we're gonna correct some things. So in this one, this person told me like, oh, my exercise looks like it has a hole on top, like it is a recipient instead of a sphere. And I think I kind of see what they mean, but that's something that we can fix. Just also remember that we are working with pencil, and that what I mean with that is that we can always erase, we can always fix those mistakes or those things that we don't like that much. So let's go with this one. I think I don't have a circle handy so I can draw this, so I'm gonna do it freehand. We Oh, beautiful circle. Alright, did my best. Um, okay, so I see that they started with indicating where the highlight was gonna be. Which is good because it gives you an idea, is guiding you through the process. So if you want to do that, you can, of course. That's also what I explained on the exercise. I told you to do this. So yeah, it's okay to do it. But then don't forget to work on the transition inside. And in here, then we can work with our different pencils. One really good thing that I see about this exercise is that the shading is done with the shape that it was what we wanted. Because then the shading being done like this is telling us, oh, this is actually rounded, right? I'm gonna use for this one, I'm not gonna use the circle one, but I'm gonna use the straight line. I'm using an HB pencil, so this is my in-between. So I know that from here I can go darker and I can go lighter. I'm gonna try to do this fast just so you can see how we're gonna achieve. You can see how we're gonna be achieving this gradient. I think you can already see the difference of the paper. Yes, I have to admit that these techniques that are gonna give us a more refined aspect are gonna take longer. They also make you very aware of the details. And if you're a fan of the details, you're gonna like these techniques for sure. So other things that I really like about the exercise, that this one that they sent me, is the reflection light. You really see the reflection light, and that really plays the object on the plane. So I really like that, and I also really like the darkness of the beginning of the cast shadow. I think those details are just gonna make an object so much more there, so much more alive. And I understand that you're maybe gonna struggle a bit. The cast shadow is a hard thing. Not gonna lie to you, is a hard thing to accomplish. So if you don't have it at the first try, hey, it's alright. You just have to keep trying. Why is it so complicated? Because we see on different shadows depending on what the lights are, the gradients of the shadow. So if I'm closer here, then it's very dark. If I start going up, then it gets very soft. And you never, when you're looking at a shadow, maybe you see points where you see the difference, but you never see lines of cutting. That's why it's so hard. When you're drawing an object, it doesn't really matter. Like, it's not that bad if you can see a line dividing light and shadow. But the cast shadow is just so subtle, so so delicate, that is very easy to do it wrong. Or not to do it wrong, just to do it, to overdo it, to do it darker than what we would want to do. So yeah, I can tell you, I can explain like the basic about light and shadow, but really completely understanding it is not as easy. You just have to continue doing exercises to get there. Okay, in here, what would I recommend? Don't overcomplicate things for yourself. I'm doing this because I don't wanna go on top of the camera and not show you what I'm doing. But just go with whatever works for you. If this line is complicated to doing from down here, just do it from above or do it from here. Just remember you can move, and that's gonna help you get the angles that you wanna get. A lot of people that draw a lot, they develop the ability to use both of their hands. And exercises like this is very handy to be able to use both of your hands because of the angles. So if I grab this side with my left hand, okay, I have to tell you I'm not great at this. But if you practice this enough, then these complicated angles are not gonna be so complicated anymore. Because then you can just switch the pencil from the to the other hand, and then that'll be it. Yeah, you can definitely see the difference when I do it with my right hand to when I do it with my left hand. Okay, right now I feel we're getting into a lighter zone, so I'm gonna use a lighter pencil. But that, yeah, this is what I wanted to show you. This is my 2H. And I just work with HB, and that's my 2H. So yeah, I think my 2H might not be as dark as I was expecting it to be. I'm gonna make sure to get new ones. This is my 4H. Okay, you don't really see the difference on camera, but I do. It's a little bit lighter. So I'm gonna be working with my 4H. If your 2H is already soft enough, like light enough, go ahead and use that one. Sharpening my pencil, and then I'm gonna sand it with another paper. I'm just trying to smooth all the edges that are kind of sharp. You can also do this with sandpaper if you want. Maybe you don't want to use a pencil sharpener, or you want to use a cutter, a knife to sharpen your pencil. You can also do that. When you have a longest point of the pencil, that also gonna allows you more possibilities. Okay, what I wanna do is get to the edge where we indicated that our highlight was, so I can show you how to work and build it from there to the inside. And maybe one of the issues that we have when we indicate a highlight is that we already arrived there and the line is darker than the tone that we were working with. So let's erase that a bit. Be happy we're working with pencil and we can erase this. So I still know it's there. Okay, I wanted to erase some other, maybe darker points that I didn't want. And we can work from there also. Yeah, don't forget that you can always erase. Really. I think a lot of people have a lot of, okay, I don't know if expectations, but like ideas of what drawing is and what drawing is not. Or like what's allowed when you're drawing. And I'm just here to tell you that everything's allowed. I don't know, a lot of people think like, oh, if you're tracing a picture, that's not drawing. It is. Tracing is not that easy. Or they tell you like, yeah, if you measure something, that's not drawing. It's like, okay, it is drawing. I just want to make sure that the measurements are exactly the same. Maybe that's very important for my drawing. That's valid. You use whatever tool works for you. So some people don't like to erase because they feel that's cheating. That's cheating. That's okay. We are gonna erase. We are gonna use all the tools that we have. So the key thing is that we indicated our highlight, but that's not really like the edge until where our tone was going. So it's not like I indicated there and then I stop. Rather, I indicated there and then I have to build the gradient. And this is also what I tell you about loving the process and enjoying in the process. Maybe if you look at this right now, you are gonna tell me like, oh, that has like a lot of gradients that we don't want, right? Like, why is this lighter than this? And tell you like, okay, this is just my process today. Remember, we can always build it up from there. Okay, this is not what I wanted to show you. So when we're here, we just go softly inside. As soft as we can. Trying to keep those straight lines. And we get to a point where the strokes of the pencil are almost not perceivable. That's what's interesting because that's what's gonna give the visual effect of the shininess. Even on all the edge of the circle, there's a bit of darker tone. And then we just make sure that we're gonna leave just a tiny space here with our highlight. Right. I'm happy with that gradient. Okay, I do want to erase a little bit here. Okay, remember that erasing is also not always like if I have this. Erasing is not always doing this. I completely disappear everything. But erasing can also look like this. Just taking a little bit of the extra graphite so we can have a smooth texture. You see that? That's what I did here. Maybe for me maybe it was too strong, and then I soften it. Alright, I like that. I'm gonna work from there. And then we can just start making it darker. And maybe when we're working on our reflective light, Okay, we're having some issues. Give me a second. Hey, maybe one time we're gonna have a class where we have no technical issues. I'm afraid to tell you that today is not the day, but we're back, so that's good. I was talking to you about layers and how we can also use a hard pencil to work on the shadow parts of the drawing. So I'm using a 4H to do my darkest parts of this drawing. And that's alright because sometimes we need that. Sometimes we need to build up our layers. I'm also pretty sure that you're gonna find a way that's gonna be comfortable for you, that's gonna be easy for you, that is gonna be what you like. And that's in everyone's journey. I'm just telling you how I would do it, and then you can decide whether you wanna follow what I'm telling you or not. Working on your layers also helps you practice on your pressure and your control of the pencil. Remember that it's gonna be way more difficult to fix something that it's very dark than something that is very light. So if in these initial states we are having some mistakes, hey, in the later stages you're not gonna be able to see that. I'm gonna work with my 2H. That's pretty hard, but it's gonna work what we want here. So whenever you change your pencil and you draw a line and you feel like, oh, that was a hard line, then just build up the gradient and start using it softer and connecting that dark line to the rest of the drawing until you cannot really perceive it. In the first couple of layers we rarely use the pencil to darker to the darkest that it can give us. Because we want to play with that gradient. If I'm gonna go all dark right now, then you're gonna really see the difference. But do you see how satisfying it looks when we like get to an edge or connect one part to the other? Oh, for me, it's very satisfying and very relaxing as well. And you see here the importance of the light. Like if we look at this, then it has a very weird shape, but that's just because the light is giving that aspect. Also, my circle is not as a perfect circle, so that might also be affecting it. But once I start working here, and once I start making even more clear that is the shadow side, then it's gonna be more obvious for the brain, will be more easier to read it, more easy to read it. Okay, I'm trying to continue doing just the lines that are not touching each other, like doing these instead of these. But I do feel that it takes me way longer to show you something. So yeah, at the beginning maybe these layers were a bit separate, working maybe a bit independent. But when we work on the second layer, then we can make that connection better. We can make the connection smoother. And in here, like I'm still saving this reflection light that is gonna be hitting my sphere. I still wanna darken it a bit because have to remember that our light parts on the shadow part are always gonna be darker than our shadow parts on our light sides. And I hope that made sense to you. And in here the only tool we're gonna be using to blend our tones, or we're gonna be using to give this texture, is our pencils. I know a lot of people like to use blenders, like these paper tubes that can help you blend things. We're not gonna do that because we really wanna work on gaining control over our pencil work. If you decide to do that later on, hey, be my guest. Nothing wrong with that. We already talked about that there's nothing like forbidden in drawing. You can use whatever tool you feel like using. Anything that's gonna help you make the process easier for you, you can use. It's just that in this part of the process, we want to make sure that we are developing our pencil skills. And maybe if we were to jump to using a different tool, then we're kind of skipping that part. And I just want to make sure that we don't skip that part, alright? So here I went to dark. Yeah, you can see that it's kind of darker than I was expecting. But then that just means that I have to darken everything else around it. And that's right. That could also happen, like, hey, am I rotating my pencil? Maybe I'm not rotating it as much as I should. Maybe I have to sand it again against a paper sheet. See, and we're back to this. Sorry, went out of the line. Still feel that when I'm showing you these exercises, I have to rush a bit. Yeah, of course, because we only have 2 hours, and because I also want you to see the difference. Like, I don't want to have you here sitting down for 5 hours and not being able to see what's happening on my paper. So I am going faster. If you feel like going slower, please do. See, and then I go faster and then I make mistakes. That's the thing. If you're gonna be drawing when you're rushing, you're prone to make mistakes. Drawing is also about slowing down. And sometimes it's good to go back to a harder pencil that can help us connect. If we create a very strong disconnection, then we go back and use it softly, softly, softly till we get up. Okay, at this point I'm just doing all the techniques that I show you. Right now I'm doing the circle one. Because the circle one just really also helps you a lot with controlling the pressure that you apply on your pencil. And that's just crucial on these highlight transition spots. Just want to work, and do you see this? This is super dark and this is super light, and I need a mid-tone between those two. Yeah, kind of like this. Then you see that the transition is more smooth. Let me see, I have a 2B here. I'm gonna be using, because I feel that this part can still go darker. And I'm having with the reflection light that it doesn't matter the pencil that I'm using. I always go there, like doesn't matter the layer. But you can see that I'm still keeping it, like you can see that it's still there. Yeah, maybe I can darken other parts surrounding it. Alright, we're gonna leave it like that. Cause yeah, as I was telling you, I can work on this forever. For me, it's just very relaxing, very satisfying, very rewarding when I manage to have a final result that I'm happy with. So yeah, I tell you, yeah, I'm finishing now, and then I keep going. But no, for real, I wanna talk to you about something else. It was another question that someone raised, and then I wanna talk to them about it. Mm, okay, I hope this was helpful for you all to be able to make this gradient so this doesn't look like a hole in our object but like a highlight. And then right now, one of the other questions that someone raised was about how to be able to recognize the shadows inside of my animal. And I understand this question a lot. I know that it's not as easy, and even more when we're working with something that it has colors. No, we already went around this when we were doing our bird last week. So I wanna tell you again that if we can use with different tools, and there's things that are gonna help us understand things. So I'm gonna show you what I do to sometimes recognize and maybe divide what I wanna see. We're gonna be working with an Indian burr, and yes, okay. Alright, here it is. Yeah, I'm gonna remove my screen again because I wanna show you this. We have this burr here, and for practical reasons we can make it black and white. But let me change the paper again. and do this quick sketch of our bear. Hmm. Okay, let me make it a bit more to the side so we have more space on this paper. Hey, and Marcella is sending a message. Yeah, this was the exercise that she sent us. And she's saying, thanks for the explanation, very clear. I'm trying again. Of course, you're so very welcome. I'm very happy. I'm very happy that you send us your exercises. It's really important for me to be able to give you feedback because sometimes it happens that we're just following the instructions and maybe we don't understand how to go from point A from point B to point B. So that's where I'm here to help you. I really appreciate you sending your work and I'm really happy to be able to give you a feedback that's going to help you improve and keep working on your drawing skills. So please, this goes for all of you that are present on this class today. Just don't be shy and send me your work and we can work from there and I can give you more explanation on how to do it. I can also solve all your doubts. So if you have any question, just leave me a message and we'll talk about it, okay? Thank you, Marcela, once again for sending your activities of last class. Okay, let's go back to the bear. And this is it. What do I want to do? I'm gonna go to the black and white one and I'm gonna sketch this real fast. Yes, this is supposed to be a bear. This, by the way, is the Andean bear. Is the one you can find in the Andes. It's very beautiful. If you see it one time while you're hiking, you can consider yourself very lucky. I've never seen it. I would love to. I think I would cry. No, but really, I think it would be very exciting for me to see this animal. So what is the black and white helping me to do in this case? And this is just really just trying to map, and that's what I want you to do a little bit. Trying to map where our shadows are, trying to map where our highlights are. And it doesn't have to be perfect. But if you're coming from a sketch like this, sorry, I'm gonna erase this line. That's a little bit confusing. It was just my first line. It was not super accurate. Not that the rest of the animal is super accurate, but okay. um, we can map our shadows and our lights in our animal. So in here, I would say, and I'm gonna erase this again. I have shadow here, 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 here. And to make this a little bit more, we can use a color pencil. Yes, alright. I have an orange pencil. Perfect. And this is just before you start doing your illustration. This is just part of our studies on light. And you can do this before starting to draw. Just so you know. Hey, I have shadow here, I have shadow here, I have shadow here. Let me see where else. I have another shadow here. The ears are completely dark. I have shadow on the front part. So I have shadow here. Okay, I'm gonna close this one and then I'll merge it with the other one. I have shadow here. I have shadow here. I have in the face, I have shadow here. And also here. Okay, how is this exercise actually helping us? And it's helping us just to understand, you know? It's helping us observe before we start drawing. You see that? So right now, my orange is shadow side. And let's remember that right now shadow side is covering like the darkest part of the illustration is also covering the midtones. I think maybe I focus a little bit more on the darkest parts. And then I'm gonna go right ahead and do my highlights, like the most important highlights. I have a big one here. And here, and then on top of the ears also have a highline. And on this one I also have a highline. On this part here that's giving us the separation of the head. And then also, you see how light and shape play together like with these things. When you have a shadow right next, you're gonna have lighting. Same in here, when you have a shadow right there, you're gonna have light. These contrasts really help us understand the object. Sorry. Do you see? And your illustration doesn't have to look like that. As in, we're not gonna be working on top of this. This is just something, is a tool that is gonna help us understand. Because someone was telling me that they were having issues understanding how this works. And yeah, having issues is normal when you're not used to paying attention to these things. When you're not used to mm, looking and trying to identify where your lighting or how your lighting is here in the object. And so this is just an exercise that you can do before starting with the illustration. This we're also gonna be working a bit next week because we already work with trying to understand how an object is being hit by light, but just a very simple object like a sphere. So now we're gonna go deeper into it in how is the light gonna be hitting my animal, the one I'm gonna be drawing. So that's just a little bit more complicated, but doing a map like this is gonna help us a lot. I told you in previous classes that there's a way that helps me to understand, and is the squeezing your eyes. That's gonna help you differentiate the tones that maybe when you look at it just like this, maybe it's not as easy to understand. So what I do is squeeze my eyes like this, that you can barely see like in between your eyelashes. And then this contrast is gonna pop up even harder. So then you say like, okay, then I see, yeah, I see it more clear and I see it despite of the colors. Because that can sometimes really confuse us. And it's understandable because if you have a bird maybe that has a lot of colors, then this is not always gonna come super easy. Yeah, or this animal doesn't have a lot of colors, so that is also gonna help us to see it faster. But when you have a very colorful animal, then this tool that I'm telling you of just squeezing your eyes and trying to see through your eyelashes is gonna do wonders to understanding where are you having the lights and the shades of your illustration. Alright, this would be all for today. I wanna really appreciate you all for being with me today. Um, and I told you previous class that next week we're gonna go deep into our illustration of pencil because we have 2 weeks left to have that done. I really want you to work on your sketch, the one we were working on Tuesday. So if you already came to decisions based on the layout of your illustration, decisions based on the shape, the form, that would be great. If next class we can have the sketch, that would be perfect, and then we will be working from there. I also want to do a tiny exercise with a Play-Doh. Doesn't have to be Play-Doh, just anything you can mold, because we're gonna be doing tiny molds of our animals, tiny sculptures of our animals, so we can understand how light is hitting them. Because it's just way easier if I have a picture, then I'm gonna be limited by the lighting that that picture was taken with. And maybe on this one it helps us that light is coming from the left up in this in this picture. So yeah, we could use that one, but sometimes we are not that lucky that we're gonna have light hitting from there. So then these tools that I'm gonna show you next class are really gonna help us understand how light is gonna be hitting specifically the animal that we are gonna be drawing. So yeah, thank you all for joining today. I hope to see you all on Tuesday, and thank you once again for joining this scientific illustration course with me. Bye bye.